Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of Uncut History. How's everybody doing tonight? We're trying to get back to a normal weekly schedule. I'm not quite there yet. I'm just going to spoil everything right now. I'm not quite back to the weekly schedule. There probably won't be a stream next week, but I am here today. I am here today to shout out several historic sites that deserve to be recognized. All right. Well, before we dive in, because everything I touch tends to fall apart, the computer that I'm operating on, I am operating off a Asus Tough gaming laptop. I think it's labeled an F15 gaming laptop. As you can tell, I really don't know much about how technology works, so I think that's what it's called. It thinks what it's called. Well, my cats think that it is a wonderful heated blanket that they are supposed to lay on. And it never fails that if I walk out of the room for like 1 minute, I will come back and one of the cats will be laying on the keyboard, which causes me to, freak out, try to grab the cat before any damage is done. Well, sadly, this week I was not able to rescue my computer in time, and the D key is now destroyed on my computer. Not entirely. So the situation is I can't membrane it goes underneath the computer keys. So it won't lock back in properly right because the membrane is torn in half. So for the time being, I got a piece of piece of cardboard kind of jerry rigged across the S and F keys, and that seems to be working for now. It's not perfectly responsive, but it's better than if I have nothing covering it. So I really don't want to spend all the money to get a new keyboard because it's one key that's broken. Probably what's going to happen. Hopefully, I can find somebody once my classes are over and I can, when I'm not really needing the computer every day of the week, I'll send it to get repaired. So that was this week's misfortune in the life of Redoubt Productions. I don't think there was anything else actually. This has been a kind of a tame week. Uh, Going into November was quite a they tell you that they say that March comes in like a lion or out like a lamb or vice versa. Well, they should make a similar saying for November because we were here on Halloween. Temperatures were decent. They were in the 50s and the 60s. Wake up November 1st. It is 30 degrees out and there's snow on the ground here up on the mountain. So 24 hours, harsh tonal change to remind us, forget fall. Fall is done. We are in winter. We are in winter now here in the mountains of Pennsylvania. In all honesty, though, I think it's supposed to warm up before this week's over. Hopefully, the weather's tolerable for some trips I have planned in the coming weeks. And hail, Wrangler! Thank you for joining in tonight to our stream. Well, I think that's all my personal business I got to clean out. All right, time to go into the street. Let's go into shouting out some historical sites. And first and foremost, we are going to check out the Richfield Springs Scenic Railway. I was actually going to talk about these folks the last time we were streaming, but I just didn't have the time to make it in. So they will get the spotlight tonight. Richfield Springs Scenic Railway, located in New York. We hope you will find your visit with us to be a unique and memorable experience. We offer a pristine park-like trail along the former railroad property. The round trip on the Adventure Train, is a 1-hour experience. We offer a narrated train ride where the train crew will tell you about the wildlife, sights, and history of the railroad. Tickets are required to visit our park. We'll use the proceeds of your ticket sales to build our railway and enhance the experience of walking or riding along. Let's explore a little bit more. Richfield Springs branch of the Lackawanna Railroad in central New York has its origins as the Utica, Chenango, and Susquehanna Valley Railroad built in 1868. The line was absorbed by the Lackawanna in 1870 and provided freight and passenger service for the early years of the 20th century. The Delaware and Lackawanna Western it's the Delaware Lackawanna Western, right? The Lackawanna merged with the Erie Railroad in 1960 to form the Erie Lackawanna Railway Company, with the now merged railroad providing freight service only to customers in the Free County region served by the line. In 1974, the Erie Lackawanna line sold the branch to the Central New York Railroad Corporation of Cooperstown, New York. The Central New York continued to provide freight service on the line to the early 90s. In 1995, the track structure was removed and sections of the roadbed became an informal recreational corridor. In 2009, the Central New York sold the roadbed between Mapledale and the town of Bridgewater to the intersection with State Route 28 in the town of Richfield to the Utica, Chenango, Susquehanna Valley Limited License Corporation of man, why are you throwing me so many symbols? Limited License Corporation of Richfield Springs, New York. The track north of Mapleton Road to Richfield Junction in the town of Paris is owned by the Central New York and remains intact and out of service as of 2009. The section of roadbed between Route 28 and the Elm Street extension in Richfield is owned by the Osco County Industrial Development Authority of Ononona, New York. All of them Iroquois names. This parcel includes the Y track used to turn passenger trains in the passenger era. The portion of the line between the Elm Street extension and the Lake Street in the village of Richfield Springs is owned by the Central New York Railroad as of 2009. The terminal property in the village includes the former COIN engine house built by the COIN in the 1970s, along with the enormous covered coal trestle of the defunct Botson Coal Company. The property once had a 24,000-gallon water tank and crane used to fill steam locomotives with water. The footing for the structures remain intact. Oh, look, pretty pictures. The Winfield Station, the Cedarville Lackawanna Railroad Station. All right. So, in short, this entity is looking to restore a short segment of the Richfield branch of the Lackawanna Railway in central New York. I don't know how many miles of track they currently have. I only think they have a few miles, but it looks like they're trying to acquire more property. And what property they don't put track on, it'll still be used as a rail trail. And there's them putting down some ties on the old rail bed. Tracks were torn up in 1995 and are now being restored. And they have this very interesting locomotive, which is why my attention was attracted to the Richfield Springs Scenic. It's not a steam locomotive. I know what it looks like. It's not a steam locomotive. It's a gas locomotive, I believe, but they put the shell, made it look like a steam locomotive, and the chute, the smokestack it's cowhide. It looks like cowhide, but they got some really cool passenger cars that they've custom built for this line. All right. Let me see if we can find some more information. Narrow gauge railroad. That's probably where we need to go. Starting on the center line ties being installed in South Columbia in August of 2013. What are you doing, Lily? Why are you knocking down my stuff? The center line survey stake is from 1916 when the railroad was surveyed for the Government Evaluation Map Project. Railroads across the country were surveyed and mapped, and the stakes they used can still be found along the way. All right, so it looks like beginning in 2013, this organization began the effort to reconstruct part of the Lackawanna line for New York. The ties came from Pennsylvania and will be cut in half for our purpose. New service entrance wires and hydrant will all allow us to have power and water in the yard area. So there's installing. Here come in the rails. Some maps of their yard. Classic Lackawanna poured concrete construction. This cattle pass and waterway are located at milepost 285 on the Richfield Hill grade east of Cedarville Station. Now you can see some of the grade without trackage. I'm getting distracted very easily. I apologize. And there's some more of the right of way as they lay the tracks down. My dogs are going crazy. I apologize. My dogs are seeing a cat, and they've never seen a cat before in their life. They've just never seen a cat before in their life, you know. And Wrangler has dropped a 420. Beginning at the South Columbia train shed, you may choose to ride to the end of the line and return, about a 1 hour trip. If you choose to venture on foot towards McCoon's Crossing, be sure to keep an eye on the time so you can get the last train back to the station. Exploration on foot heading south towards Richfield Springs is also available to our visitors. You will traverse a diverse, varied terrains, sometimes high or fill or low in a cut. Be sure to be respectful to our neighbor friends along the trails. We don't want our use of the trail to be bothersome. looking for artifacts along a trail that tell the story of the railroad built with pride over 150 years ago. You will see ties that were cast aside in the abandonment in 1995. Screw spikes can be seen in many of them as the Lackawanna Railroad preferred them. Oh, so they didn't use the typical spike. They were screws. Oh, cool. Did not know that. And you can also see there are some mileposts along the way, some old concrete mileposts like milepost 291. Oh, I'm trying to find it. They tell me how much they have reconstructed. Tickets. So maybe it's under the tickets. So it's an hour round trip. East Broad Top has got about 3.5 miles of track current preserved. So that's what, 7 miles. And that's an hour trip. So maybe they have something similar, about 3 miles. I'm going to say they probably have about 2 to 3 miles preserved right now. So yeah. Wish there was a little bit more information about what they have their operation, but you can see some of these images. Ugh, I don't want that. I was hoping I can zoom it up. Maybe I can go over here. But as you can see, it looks like it's definitely a small operation. It's ran by an LLC and are looking to restore some more track on this old Lackawanna Railroad bed. And they are doing it with a lot of homemade equipment. And it is actually a narrow gauge operation. So it's not the full 4 feet and 8.5 inches, which I should not explain standard gauge and narrow gauge differences because every time I do, I always somehow get the numbers wrong. So narrow gauge is 3 foot, standard gauge is 4 feet and a couple other inches. There's I make everybody happy. Okay, because whenever I say it's 4 foot, everybody gets angry and says, I know it's not exactly 4 foot. I know it's bigger than that, but 3 feet, 4 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet. So be sure if you're in if you're nearby Richfield Springs to check out the Richfield Springs Scenic Railway. And I'm going to drop a link in the chat. So if you want to go and explore that, there you go. It's in the chat right there. All right. All right, just bouncing over to a bit of news. I saw this a couple weeks back and I haven't had the chance to shout it out. Really has nothing, not in my neck of the woods, but I love a good diner. I love diner food. I almost practically live off diner food, which probably should see my doctor on that. But anyways, diner food tastes great. Unfortunately, diners are fading away very quickly due to a lack of staff, due to lack of business with competition from fast food restaurants. But also sometimes diners are done dirty by, I just want to say, infrastructure projects. And that brings us to the Philadelphia Inquirer's article about a South Jersey's revered Gateway Diner closing to make way for a bridge construction project. The South Jersey landmark for over 30 years served its last customer Sunday. It cited a bridge project and the state's seizure of land related to its construction. For more than 30 years, Gateway Diner has been a landmark along Broadway in Westville, Gloucester County. Generations of patrons and travelers have walked through the doors for a meal and conversation, but Sunday marked a bittersweet end for the beloved restaurant. In a Facebook post made Friday, the restaurant announced that 9 p.m. on Sunday would be the restaurant's last serving, citing construction of the Westville Route 47 bridge and the state's acquisition of the property for eminent domain as the cause for closure. Every sacrifice and attempt has been made to keep our doors open, especially for our loyal employees and customers, the post said. Through the years, we have all become like family to us. We would like to thank you all for your loyalty and patronage and offer our sincere apologies. The diner property is located near Route 47 and a bridge over Big Timber Creek between Brooklawn and Westville, a span the New Jersey Department of Transportation plans to replace. The bridge, built in 1928, is structurally deficient and functionally obsolete, according to the state records. NewJersey.com reported the state wants to widen the bridge and elevate a nearby road to mitigate damage for potential flooding. Steve Shapiro, a spokesperson for the DOT, told NG.com that the diner will be demolished in order to build a drainage basin and utility infrastructure. He said the project is expected to begin later this year. NG.com reported under New Jersey law, state and local governments must pay fair market value for property taken by eminent domain. The State Transportation Agency didn't return messages Sunday, and details about the sale couldn't be determined. Owner Angelo Paulus said Sunday the project has loomed for more than 5 years, but in recent months, the decision to close the restaurant became more real. They announced they were going to take the property and fix the bridge in the road, and with all the appraisals from both sides and the contracts and negotiations, everything's been signed and finalized. The time has come. Longtime patron William Barnett, who's been eating at the diner for decades, said the closing of the restaurant just wrong. It's a New Jersey landmark. The state takes what it wants, but it's wrong, and this place will be missed. About 40 customers stood outside Gateway Diner's doors at 8:45 Sunday morning as patrons walked inside. The hostess said, "Good morning. It's about 25 to 30-minute wait. Some turned away, but most chose to wait for a final meal in the revered restaurant." When Charles Gubler and his wife Maureen moved to Westville 18 years ago, he said they came into the Gateway Diner for breakfast one day and never left. It's been their go-to spot every Sunday since their arrival, and they're sad to see the place close its doors. And then it continues more about in people who have visited, their testimony, how they've enjoyed the diner. So yeah, that's unfortunately the Gateway Diner was lost due to the New Jersey state declaring eminent domain over the property. Now, I am presuming that the state gave the owners, as it's stated in the law over there, the adequate funds needed to purchase the property, what the property was worth. But that governments always do this crap. They always go in, they're like, "Well, it's we need this property, so here's the money of how much we value your property." And let me tell you a little bit of research I've done when it comes to the government giving you refunds for how they feel your property is valued. You don't you don't normally get as much as is actually valued. It doesn't change the fact that if it's become a landmark, if it's become important, wouldn't you to find a way? Wouldn't the government try to find a way for a better way to relocate this business? Not just say, "We're taking your property. Here's the money. You have no choice in the matter." No, trying to help relocate you to a new building. No alternative. And I don't know much about the New Jersey Department of Transportation, but I know a lot about the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. And let me tell you something, when they build a bridge, give it a few weeks and then they're out there having to fix it again and again and again and again. So most likely the bridge that they're widening and taking away this diner, it'll probably be always under repair and construction for years to come. So that's the story of the Gateway Diner and my little micro rant about the Department of Transportation's and eminent domain. I love diner food. I really love diner food, and I hate to see old school diners go. All right, our next major stop on our preservation shout out is taking us to the Appalachian Trail Museum. I had no idea this existed, and this is in my home state. And it's actually in a state park that's been on my radar to visit for some time. So we'll delve a little bit in. Located in Pennsylvania's Pine Grove Furnace State Park, very close to the midway point of the Appalachian Trail, the Appalachian Trail Museum tells the story of the famed path. And they have a Hall of Fame, apparently, for people to use the Appalachian Trail. Got a lot of different videos here. Let's learn a little bit more. Oh, they have a whole online research library. Okay, I'm into that. Iron Masters. About. So they are currently closed for the season. They're typically open April through October. I believe they're open on weekends. The Appalachian Trail Museum serves the Appalachian Trail community by telling the stories of the founding, construction, preservation, maintenance, protection, and enjoyment of the path since its creation. The museum collect, preserve, and interpret materials relative to these subjects in an effort to portray not only the history of the trail, but also the essence of the physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual human experience of the Appalachian environment and the culture of hiking. Our mission statement is reflected in the museum that is located in Pennsylvania's Pine Grove Fern State Park, close to the midpoint of the trail. The museum is halfway between Maine and Georgia. Appropriately, the museum is housed in a building that is itself a historical artifact, a structure built more than 200 years ago as a grist mill. It stands across the road from the Pine Grove General Store, site famed in hiker lore. It is here that through hikers traditionally stop to celebrate reaching the midway point by eating or attempting to eat a half gallon of ice cream in one sitting. Oh God, I don't know if I could. Oh, I don't know if I could eat ice cream after hiking. I don't know if I'd have the stomach for that. The Appalachian Trail Museum is active, positive advocate for the preservation and enjoyment of the trail. For the preservation of the museum's exhibits, programs, audiovisual presentation, and publications, the staff and volunteers tell the exciting stories of the human experience relating to the trail since its founded in 1921. The museum actively collects artifacts and archival material related to these stories, cares for them in a professional manner, and provides access to researchers seeking information about them. The museum currently exhibits devoted to the early founders of the trail, such as Benton Mackey and Myron Avery, I probably butchered that, as well as some of the early pioneer through hikers like Earl Schaefer, Grandma Gatewood, Gene Espy, and Ed Garvey. Another one of the highlights is the last remaining shelter built by Earl Schaefer that has been painstakingly dismantled and then reassembled inside the museum. A computer station that has access to a database of over 10,000 pictures of through hikers as they passed through Harper's Ferry and stopped at the Appalachian Trail Conservancy to check in or just say hi. And actually past that, and you'll see a very brief clip about the Trail Conservancy building at Harper's Ferry in next week's video, not this week's video. In next week's video, that'll be a trip tapes. Yes, I never knew about this. I mean, I should have known that there would have been a museum devoted to the trail. And if you don't know what the Appalachian Trail is, the Appalachian Trail is arguably the most storied hiking trail in the United States of America. It's one of the longest designated hiking trails in the country, and it runs the whole length of the mountain range of its namesake, running from Maine to Georgia. Its midway point is I thought it was typically seen as Harper's Ferry, but it does make sense that Pennsylvania would be more the true midway point, depending on the length. There are people who devote their lives, their careers to training to have the ability to walk the whole mile, the whole East Coast. Essentially, it's one of them big bragging rights as an American to say that you walk the Appalachian Trail. Recently, there was a movie that actually came out that popularized the story of the trail. Oh, I think it was called Walk in the Woods, and it was uh who did it star? Tip of my tongue, tip of my tongue. Oh. It's a good movie if you haven't seen it. Oh, I'm gonna feel stupid that I don't know. It's a good movie if you haven't seen it. It's a comedy. It's a very slow, very small scale comedy. Oh, Robert Redford. Oh, Robert Redford and Nick Nolte star in it. And it's just a small story about two older gentlemen who decide to try to hike the length of the Appalachian Trail and all the hijinks they face along the way. It's a favorite movie of mine. It's nothing major, but it's fun to see. And if you're not familiar with the trail, it gives you a little bit of exposure about the culture behind the trail, all the way stations, the shelters, the scenic highlights, the historic highlights along the way. So yeah, Appalachian Trail's very big, at least here on the East Coast, and there is a museum devoted to it. I'm gonna go back. There's more. I want to show you because some of their exhibits. Oh, why do you do this all the time, computer? Some of their exhibits they got. I was expecting. No disrespect. Sometimes in these museums, you expect maybe a little like shelter, a few signs. No, they got full exhibits in here. Maybe it's in the online museum. As I mentioned, they have the Appalachian Trail Hall of Fame, digital research library that you can access online, digital children's museum, journal project. They got a lot of stuff here. But I wanna hiking around the museum. That's probably it. Our museum is also about hiking. Okay, maybe that isn't exactly it. That's about hiking. So sadly, they don't have photographs. I did see a video though. I was watching a video earlier that gave a much better featured articles, photo collection. Let's go to the Hall of Fame photos. On the Hall of Fame class right there. They also actually operate the Iron Master's Mansion. So the state park it's in is there's a reason it's called the Pine Grove Furnace State Park. Pine Grove Furnace State Park preserves the infrastructure of a blast furnace that operated in the 19th century in rural Pennsylvania. Of course, they have the furnace preserved, but they got a lot of the employee buildings, including the Ironmaster's Mansion, which the museum operates a as a lodge, essentially, to reserve that hikers can reserve to stay overnight. There's a little more story. Oh, bummer. I don't think I'm gonna be able to show you any photos. I guess I could just go off the grid and, in the true hiking spirit, pull up some photographs. There's some exterior photos of the building. I want some interior photos. There's that shelter I believe they were talking about, the last shelter that Mr. Schaefer constructed. So it's equipment relating to this is far more my speed. Yeah, there we go. Photographs of the museum. Perfect. We found it eventually. So they got some early tools that were used in mapping out the trail on display. They got McKay's Sky Parlor. That's pretty cool. They got his typewriter equipment. He must have been a writer chronicling the early history of the trail. They got some original trail signs. On the AT, signs transcend mere physical marks. They're milestones of another order, acknowledging the dedication and sacrifice required to reach them. Nowhere is there more evident than atop Springer Mountain and 5 million steps to the north on Caffadin's Baxter Peak. For through hikers, reaching the trail's midpoint is also a celebratory experience. So that's from the true midpoint experience. And you can see all the names have been engraved in there over the years. So that's one of the exhibits, one of the older signs on this peak on the trail, and all of the hikers who have etched their names in it over the years to celebrate. So that's an idea of some of what you would see here at this museum. This is gonna be a video someday, guys. This is gonna be a video someday. I don't know when, but I am definitely put on the bucket list. It's in Pennsylvania. It's in the Pine Grove State Forest. It's not the most out of reach for me to travel to for a day trip. And there's one final image there. Oh, you're a little too closer. Gene Espy living his dream. Looks like they have one of his original canes on display. And I'd love to learn more about why. I don't really recognize a lot of these names, I'd be honest. If you're a avid hiker in the chat, if you're watching us live or you're watching the replay, let me know in the comments. I'm sure you recognize some of these names, and I would love to learn their importance myself. So I will definitely have to make a visit to the Appalachian Trail Museum. Appalachian Trail Museum. And before we leave, I'm of course going to drop the link in the chat so you may go and explore. Hey, Fu Man Blue, thank you for joining in. And man, we're getting pretty high tonight with another 420. Was that as hopefully Wrangler that wasn't as long. Wrangler gets the longest 420s, but Fu Man Blue can be close second. A very, very close second. Very close second. Woot, woot. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, so if it's the first time you're joining in, Fu Man Blue, what we do is most Thursdays at 8 o'clock, I go live, and I typically shout out historical sites, be it museums, battlefields, landmarks, things that are needed to be preserved, And I essentially go around and shout out. I totally did not ape this idea from a drunken Iron Age reader. Totally not. I totally did not ape this idea from him. What are you talking about? Why are you looking at me? All right. Anyways, I did hold it in a bit too long. Anyways, slideshow. I just want to bounce over quickly, and I want to remind, we've talked about this before in the stream. Jim Abels was one of our guests on Uncut History a number of months ago, and I am hoping to get him back on, hopefully sometime this winter. I'd love to talk more history with him. There's a lot of history to delve into with Jim Abels and the organization he's a part of, the NGP History Project. The NGP History Project is devoting to living history to explain the importance of the Pennsylvania National Guard, not only in the state's history, but in the country's history. The National Guard of Pennsylvania has been deployed for a number of operations, including the American Civil War, the Railroad Strike of 1877, the Johnstown Flood, the Homestead Strike of 1892. They were deployed for the Spanish-American War, the Philippine Insurrection. They were deployed during the First World War. And the National Guard still carries the legacy of an infantry division the 28th Infantry Division, the Bloody Bucket. So this is a fantastic idea, fantastic program. They only formed a few years ago, and they do need your assistance. A lot of people don't know. A lot of attention is not given in American history books about what happens between the American Civil War and the First World War. And the NGB History Project is trying to fill that void. And this year they are doing the NGB Historic Preservation and Education Project. In a sense, since this year, 2023, marks the 125th anniversary of the Spanish American War, which the National Guard of Pennsylvania was involved with, and what the NGP project wants to do is raise the funds necessary to preserve Pennsylvania's role in that conflict. That includes raising funds for the Pennsylvania Capital Preservation Committee's flag collection. Pennsylvania has one of the largest battle flag collections in the country, and they just last month opened up a new facility in Harrisburg, though they still need funds to be able to maintain these historic flags. They also want to raise funds for the Mount Gretna Area Historical Society. The reason being, Mount Gretna is where the National Guard of Pennsylvania frequently rendezvoused to organize for summer trainings, but as well as when they were mustered into service for the Spanish American War and during the First World War. So funds raised for the Mount Gretna Area Historical Society would get interpretive signage set up in that area where they made camp. Funding will also be raised for the Fort Mott and Fort Delaware state parks in New Jersey and Delaware, respectively. These were locations that were garrisoned by Pennsylvania National Guard forces during the Spanish American War to protect the Delaware River. You may not know, but a lot of our gunpowder manufacturers, such as DuPont, they were located in the Philadelphia area along the Delaware River. So it was important that these vital factories were protected by forts like Fort Mott and Fort Delaware. And funding will be raised for the Pennsylvania Military Museum, which is the home of the Pennsylvania National Guard Shrine, essentially, the 28th Infantry Shrine, I should say. And I am planning to go there. I'm hoping this winter to go there, actually. There is, at this museum, it's a relatively small military museum, but there is a huge memorial, huge wall that is the shrine for the Pennsylvania National Guard, devoted to servicemen that were killed in combat during during the First and Second World Wars. So for a Pennsylvanian like myself, a military historian from Pennsylvania like myself, Boalsburg, Pennsylvania is holy ground. So this fundraiser is being done by the NGP History Project. As you can see, the word's not quite getting out. It's highly unfortunate, but again, they are trying to preserve a part of history that not a lot of people even know about happened. The military history between the American Civil War and the First World War. All right, I'm going to drop the link in the chat there. It'll just be a simple GoFundMe link if you want to help the NGP History Project raise the funds needed to preserve the history of the Pennsylvania National Guard. All right, now to our third major historic site, and you kind of talked about this. This is kind of the feature presentation for the evening. We are talking about the Fort Recovery Historical Society, which has a small museum in Fort Recovery, Ohio, devoted to a very important site in American military history. On the grounds where this stockade you see is standing in the photograph, two very important battles were waged. First one, St. Clair's defeat, and the second, well, the Battle for Recovery, of course. Now, you might recognize that name, St. Clair's defeat, because about a year ago, I think we're about a year now removed, the most recent edition of Construction Paper Battlefield on the channel was devoted to St. Clair's defeat. A little bit of catching up on what St. Clair's defeat is. In 1791, an American army led by General Arthur St. Clair led about, I think anywhere from it was like 3,000 to 4,000 soldiers. No, wait, that was his plan. Oh, God, I'm already messing up. Arthur St. Clair led about 1,000 American soldiers from Cincinnati, Ohio, into what was then uncharted wilderness known as the Northwest Territory. The United States government wanted to find a way to compel the native tribes to give the land over to the United States of America. Initially, this was done through diplomatic relations, which essentially resulted in American forces got native chiefdoms drunk at treaties, got them to sign, and the other chiefs felt that they were bamboozled. If you want to learn more about that, check out my Retracing History episode about Fort McIntosh north of Pittsburgh. So, when the United States government were not able to peacefully take the Northwest Territory, they took it by force and invaded the lands, particularly of the Shawnee people, the Shawnee and Miami people. Well, St. Clair's army got as far as what we would know today as the Ohio-Indiana state line, and he made camp along the Wabash River. Unbeknownst to him, he was being watched by well over 1,000 native warriors from multiple tribes. A confederacy had been formed in the Northwest Territory. Many claim the leader of it was Little Turtle. Others claim it was Blue Jacket. In truth, there probably was not any single leader of this confederacy, but they all had a common interest: keeping the United States from grabbing their land. And on November 4th, 1791, this native confederacy assaulted St. Clair's encampment. St. Clair's army, which were primarily made up of levies, they had very short-term enlistments, really just to fill out the ranks. St. Clair had hoped that he could march his way into the territory, and the mere show of force would scare the Confederacy away. Those soldiers do not have the discipline to fight in a battle, let alone in a battle in the wilderness against the most skilled guerrilla fighters on the planet, Native Americans. And in about 3 hours, the entire American army was wiped out. To this day, it remains, in terms of casualties, it is the highest casualty rate ever suffered by an American army in a single battle. It is the worst defeat the United States military ever suffered. However, the Confederacy were not able to keep cohesion. They had chased off St. Clair's army. Some warriors were done fighting. They did their one big battle, went home for the winter. Others tried to hold out, but with winter, they're really not able to keep their support. And a few years later, in 1794, the United States government reorganized the army to be more of a proper permanent force, often known as the American Legion, led by Mad Anthony Wayne. And Wayne's Legion marched back out to the site of St. Clair's defeat, constructed a fortification along the Wabash River, withstood an assault by native warriors. Now they had a stockade to hold out. This was the Battle of Fort Recovery, and would continue to pursue the remains of this Confederacy all the way to present-day Toledo, Ohio, where they were defeated at the Battle of the Fallen Timbers. And following the Battle of Fallen Timbers, which we talked about a few weeks ago on Uncut History, the United States government compelled tribes in the Northwest Territory to give their land to the United States government, ending one of the longest wars in American history. The Northwest War went on from 1785 to 1795. Again, another conflict never talked about in the history books. So, we've talked about this several times on the channel, you can tell. I am very passionate about this topic. I've talked about it in a 3-part series of Construction Paper Battlefield, and we've talked about the battles following St. Clair's defeat on Uncut History. But back to the Fort Recovery Historical Society. Fort Recovery is the site of 2 remarkable Northwest Indian War battles: St. Clair's defeat and the Battle of Fort Recovery. The Fort Recovery Museum explore exhibits featuring artifacts from 2 battles, see portraits of key American and Native American leaders of the 1790s, examine excerpts from 18th century Shawnee dictionary assembled by the request of George Washington. Ooh, that'd be cool. Excerpts, 18th century Shawnee dictionary, requested by the president, and visit 2 reconstructed 18th century blockhouses. Nearby, visit the Fort Recovery Monument, a 101-foot limestone obelisk commemorating the 2 important battles that took place here over 200 years ago. And I believe they also have the remains of several of the victims of St. Clair's defeat. No, several casualties. You can also do a virtual battlefield tour, and I've done this several times, and I'm going to drop the link in. They have a really cool program set up here where you can virtually explore the battlefield. Obviously, the battlefield is now covered by the town of Fort Recovery, but you too can retrace the steps of America's greatest military blunder, at least up to 2023. Here's the link to that if you want to delve into the virtual tour. I highly recommend it to learn more about this forgotten chapter in history. All right. Research. Plan your visit. That's where we want to go. The museum is open typically From May for October, 10 for 4. Then it looks like they are closed in the winter months. I do not see winter hours. That's a bit of a bummer, unless, although I think they might actually be open the winter for something special. They may have special, says all federal holidays. But it looks like it's a seasonal site, predominantly open May through October. Mission fees very affordable, only $5 for admission. Guided tours are available upon request, March through November. Some of the points of interest include the Fort Recovery Museum, where the artifacts are displayed, the Frank Historical Walkway, which links the Fort Site Park to the museum grounds. They also have an amphitheater constructed in 1991 as part of the bicentennial celebrations. And then there is, of course, the Fort Recovery Monument. In 1908, President Taft signed a bill that allowed for the building of a monument. It was built in 1912, completed in 1913, stand at 101 feet tall. Face in significant directions. Oh, we keep going. Wow. Pioneer Cemetery. Among the first settlers to the area, Mr. and Mrs. John Simonson was buried in the Pioneer Cemetery in 1820. In 1851, after some boys playing around the Wabash River found many bones that had been buried, the townspeople realized the bones were from soldiers killed at Sinclair's defeat. A proper burial followed in Pioneer Cemetery with 13 big wooden caskets, and a small one contained the bones of fallen soldiers. A stone marker was engraved in her memory. These are the bones of a later interred in the Fort Recovery Monument. The cemetery is the oldest in the county. So they got a lot going on in Fort Recovery, Ohio, and I would highly like to visit. I would just need to find a time. Unfortunately, the time I have most available in my current schedule are in winter months, and unfortunately, it doesn't seem like they're open in the winter. But I do want to go out there for my Ohio Blitz experience. There's a lot of people overlook Ohio for any history, and it really bums me out. Oh, why? Huh. No, I'm still here. I don't know what happened there. Something went on the stream. Let me see if I can get back in. I have no idea what just happened there. How long have I been out? This is when Wrangler tells me I've been out for 4 weeks. Okay, we're back. Okay. Okay. At least according to my end, I can see myself on YouTube. Hopefully you guys can see me on my end. Please give me a thumbs up if you can see me on your end. Please give me a thumbs up in the chat. I'm gonna wait for those thumbs up because there's about a 30-second delay. I don't know what happened there. I I guess the channel couldn't take the awesomeness. Yeah, it's the I've I don't know what happened. I have no idea what's going on. Maybe if I'm gonna try removing the screen. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. I can't get the screen, like, my screen sharing's not working. Okay, it's back on now. Okay. Yep, we're good. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Okay. The StreamYards could not handle the awesomeness of the Fort Recovery Historical Society. And neither can I. I need to go see this. When do I get the time to go see this? I want to go tell the story of America's worst military defeat. I love talking about military blunders, especially when it involves my country, because it's fascinating how many mistakes we can make, and we need to learn from those mistakes so we don't do them again. So there's the link. It's in the chat right now for the Fort Recovery Historical Society. They got a wonderful campus of exhibits to explore. And one other little detail I want to mention. Currently, there is a traveling exhibit going around the country called St. Clair's Defeat Revisited, a new view of the conflict. This traveling exhibit introduces you to the complex story of St. Clair's defeat on November 4th, 1791, and its context and aftermath within respect to the 9 tribal nations who orchestrated this great defeat of the U.S. military. The exhibit's 4 themes, design, and impressive qualities will contextualize the background, battle and native crescent strategy, aftermath including broken treaties, removal and boarding schools, and persistence of tribes today. Exhibit sites. Currently, it is on display. Well, it's about to be on display at the Fort Recovery Museum. It'll be on display till January 7th, which is making me question. They must have 1 hours of operation, and if this temporary exhibit's going until January. From January to May, it'll be at the History Center at the Fort Wayne Historical Society in Indiana. And then from May for December next year, it will actually be going to Oklahoma. We'll be going to the Connie Hall of Northeastern Oklahoma, A&M College in Miami, Oklahoma. And then from January to September or beyond, it'll be at the Ohio History Center in Columbus, Ohio. I'd love to get this to Pennsylvania. Arthur St. Clair actually had his residence in Western Pennsylvania. His house was not actually far from where I am currently doing this stream from. So it would be pretty cool if a local museum in Western Pennsylvania could get this traveling exhibit. So yeah, they are a lot going on here. This is going to be an exhibit that's focused upon it appears to be it's on the native perspective of the battle, which I am all down for. Bot in the Rumble chat. Is the botting? You want is the botting in the Rumble chat? Botting. Real, real shame. Rumble, I actually use Rumble's application, their phone application, when I watch live streams on the go. I don't watch YouTube's live stream. I don't have a lot of problems watching live streams on Rumble's app. I know other people do, but I actually have not had any problems. That being said, yes, I can see it now. Well, guess where that message is going? Goodbye. Delete this message. Yep, would I like to delete the message? There, the bot got defeated. Oh, thank you for helping the algorithm wrangler. Thank you for helping the algorithm. There, the bot has been vaporized for time being. So, traveling exhibit of St. Clair's defeat going around at this time. Doesn't look like it's going anywhere near me, sadly, but maybe it's coming to a museum near you. It's currently in Ohio. It's going to Indiana. It'll be in Oklahoma the second half of next year, and it'll be back in Ohio for 2025. Yes. All right. Well, we're about to wrap up the stream tonight, but before I go, I like wrapping up the streams by shouting out a random blah, 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 blah. I like shouting out a random piece of culture because I do feel that right now, at least in the United States of America, if not the whole world, you've probably heard about this culture war. And it appears that we have people who do not want us to have a voice. There are people out there who do not like true creativity. They want everything to be distilled through giant conglomerates, and everything must be cohesive so it can make The chart says this will make bottom dollar. So our culture is being shoved into a meat grinder and they're shredding out these little piecemeal pieces and then trying to build it back together what is most economically viable. Well, I say F that noise. Enjoy some Kataru Witch Hunter instead. This is not coming from it's not coming from Disney. This is not coming from, well, Disney owns everything now. There is nothing else. There is the one entertainment conglomerate in the United States of America, in the world. There is no other choices. So go to Fund My Comic, where you will have many choices. You may like some of the items, you may not like other items, but there will be something that just gets that sweet tooth, that appeases that literary sweet tooth of yours, such as Kataru Witch Hunter. This is written by Von Klaus, and I gotta read his creator's description. Von Klaus is an award-winning writer of graphic novels with a punky horror style and comedic edge like Monster MD, Terror in the Trenches, and Psycho Killers. He lives in a haunted castle somewhere making your excellent books, where all great creation should begin. God, why is my nose itchy? I can't speak. I hit the hour marker. My brain hit a flat. Kentaru is a witch hunter, rigorously trained from youth to detect and execute witches for the shoguns of the land. As he investigates a mother's ritualistic murder, the dark forces of a corrupt town enclose around him, marking his next move. Marking him next. Will his hunt be his last? This standalone story is 100% done. So, if you give money to Kataru Witch Hunter, the story, it's done. It is there. All it needs is the funding for the printing, I presume. It is 58 color pages of gorgeous art and mystical murder mystery. With the art finished, we plan to run a fast campaign that prints and fulfills quickly so you can get your book sooner than later. As a bonus to all physical purchases, come with free digital deluxe versions. There will be an 8-page bonus story by myself and Preston Acevedo, so 66 pages is what you're technically getting. With your help, we can make it a gorgeous book finally. It's already successful fulfilled 2 books, and I'm ready to make this number 3. Let's hunt. Gotta love this artwork. Gotta love the artwork. We got the Japanese aesthetic. We got the manga aesthetic. Love the artwork. That cover. I love that cover. But you can also get a bonus all physical. Oh, well, we already mentioned that part. There's also an art book. This must be one of the higher tiers where you can get the Necro. I don't think they're going Necronomicon. It's Necrovanicon. The art and design of Von Klaus. Oh, so this is Von Klaus's art book. So if you're a fan of Von Klaus and you're liking his artwork, but maybe you're not into a story about witch hunters, well, looks like he's also giving out a art book with all of his character designs. This autobiographical art book is very special and personal to me. Do you like my characters and stories? Want to see what goes into making them? It's Necrovanicon, 70 plus pages of my work with personal notes and commentary. This magic tome showcases all my design work, comic work, and character designs over the last 23 years. It also reveals designs of my newest unpublished stories that will give you a first look. Gives you a first look. This book is beautiful, put together, and is for art and comic lovers, as well as people wanting to learn how to make their own stories. It has a cover by the rad Monica Macagini. Monica Macagini, and we're going to go fat. Macagini. We're going to go Macagini. With colors by Tiago Barca and Necrovanicon makes any shelf killer. There's also variant covers for Kataru Witch Hunter. Don't bite me, Lily. Don't bite me. I'm almost down the string. There's also Fun My Come Special. I feel like I go down the rabbit hole. I'm going down the rabbit hole for this. So if you want to go down the rabbit hole, I am going to give you the link to Kataru Witch Hunter. Funding now on Fund My Comic. There he is. It's in the link. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's beautiful. All right. Well, I think we've reached the end of the stream. I hope you enjoyed this stream, and I hope you didn't all run away when my brain hit its usual flat at the 1 hour mark. Oh yeah, it just looks freaking cool. I mean, I was scrimming through. I'm like, I want to shout out something. And I'm like, I don't know what to really shout out this week. I really haven't been paying attention to what new media is coming out. And then I just saw this lovely cover, and I'm like, yeah, I'm buying that. That's mine now. The money just leaped out of my wallet. I could do nothing to stop it. I'm not complaining, but the wall. It had a mind of its own when I saw Kataru Witch Hunter's artwork. So, if you enjoyed tonight's stream, with warts and all, be sure to hit the like button down below. There's also a like button on Rumble, so if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, hit the like button. It lets the respective algorithms know that history videos are fun, they are popular, they are important, because being informed about our shared past can go a long way to create really good stories if you like to create stories like Katara Witch Hunter, or if you want to make sure not to repeat the mistakes of our past, like leading 1,000 poorly equipped soldiers into the middle of Ohio. Don't do that. That don't normally end well. If you want to see more videos like this from me, be sure to subscribe to Readout Productions. We typically go live Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, this past few weeks have been a little rough for me. I've been very busy with work. I've been very busy with college. And we're still not out of the woods fully yet. But hopefully, once we get to the holidays, we can return to our weekly schedule. So, no stream next Thursday. That's because I got some things in the works. I'll be getting ready to go out on location and film, but there probably will be a stream the week after. So be sure to subscribe to be the first notified when I go live for Uncut History. And there is a new video coming out this Saturday, a new edition of Retracing History. So keep your eyes out for that. That'll be dropping this Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you want to go the extra mile and support me, I do have a Ko-fi page if you want to contribute a small fund, if you want to give me a cup of coffee in the morning. I'm not drinking a cup of coffee right now. I'm actually drinking hot chocolate. Again, I don't make the most healthiest decisions when it comes to consuming things, but I was told by an ancestor once, if it tastes good, it ain't bad for you. All right. Well, we're going to hit the music. Thank you guys for coming in tonight. We will see you next time on Uncut History. Have a good evening.